Yo, what's up? Dr. Swole here, MD, pro physique athlete. Today I'm going to be sharing a full 6-day hypertrophy program based on the full body split. I think full body splits are highly underrated in natural bodybuilding. And especially for higher frequencies like 4, 5, or 6 days per week, a lot of people think that they aren't feasible. But they can have some powerful advantages for hypertrophy if used properly. There are a few caveats to this though that we'll have to discuss today. This is a moderate volume program designed for a more advanced athlete. But a lot of the programming considerations here will be helpful to help you in designing your own programs, particularly if you're working with higher frequencies. I'll be sharing the full program with you in a program walkthrough where I'll share the exercises, sets, and reps. Then we'll talk about the weekly layout, and finally we'll talk about the pros and cons of this 6-day full body split program. Alright, let's do our program walkthrough. So this is Dr. Swole's 6-day full body program. It's a moderate volume program designed for an advanced bodybuilder. We have day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, and day 6. Here are the exercises, and there are the sets and reps. Down here we have the total number of sets for each workout, so you have an idea of workout length. And down here we have the total number of sets for each muscle group each week. Starting off with day 1, we have Meadows rows for the back, 4 sets of 6 to 10. And these are basically a single arm bent over landmine row. They're a nice way to get in a unilateral row when you get too strong for the dumbbells in your gym. After that we have rope hammer curls for the biceps, 3 sets of 8 to 12. Then we have hack squats for the quads, 3 sets of 8 to 12. Cable press downs for the triceps, 4 sets of 8 to 12. And finally machine calf raises, for which we're using a mile rep scheme here. So we're going to warm up to one main set of 12 to 20 reps, followed by 7 mini sets of 3 to 5 reps, only taking about 10 seconds of rest in between. I like to just count down from 10. This makes sure that you stay in that close to failure zone for these mini sets. All of them are going to be within about 1 RIR, and that will make sure that you get the most effective use out of all of your reps. I'm approximating this as 5 straight sets. Next we have day 2. First off, we have dumbbell bench press for the chest. 3 sets, and we're using a top set back off method here. So you're going to work up to 1 top heavy set of 5 to 8 reps, followed by 2 back off sets of 5 to 8 reps. And you're going to be dropping about 10% of the weight after your top set. The top set back off method is a nice way to get in a little bit of strength work with that top set while still getting in volume with that lower weight afterwards. Then we have barbell back extensions for the glutes and hamstrings, 4 sets of 6 to 10. I like setting the glute ham machine at about 55 degrees here. Then we have dumbbell lateral raises for the side delts, 4 sets of 8 to 12. And you can superset these on a bench with some dumbbell pullovers for the back, 4 sets of 10 to 15. I'm actually using this superset in my program right now, or a modification of it, and it works really well. Then we have machine preacher curls for the biceps, 3 sets of 12 to 20. Notice that you're going to see some unique ordering in the exercises on each day. This is a little bit in departure from how I usually program, where I usually put the biggest, heaviest movement first, which for example on day 1 would probably be hack squats, and on day 2 it would be barbell back extensions. But as you become more advanced, you have a little bit more control in the exercise order, and you can actually play around with exercise order to place emphasis on different muscle groups. You'll see that I have a rotating emphasis of different muscle groups, where different exercise prioritizing different muscle groups comes first on different workouts. So using this method, you'll see that I'm aiming for a more balanced program here. We're not particularly trying to emphasize a certain muscle group, although it would be easy for you to do so if you wanted to. Going on, day 3, front squats for the quads, 3 sets, and we're using a top set back off method here as well. 1 top heavy set of 3 to 6 reps, followed by 2 back off sets of 3 to 6 reps with 10% off the bar. Front squats tend to do well programmed in lower rep ranges, so I'm giving you a little bit of strength work here. Then we have machine flies for the chest, 3 sets of 10 to 15, followed by leg curls for the hamstrings, 3 sets of 10 to 15. After that, cable upright rows for the side delts, but also the traps, 4 sets of 8 to 12. And finally, seated calf raises for the calves. And we're using a mile rep scheme here again, so 8 to 12 reps as your main set, and then 7 mini sets of 3 to 5 reps. Next we have day 4, we have close grip bench press for the triceps, but also the chest, 3 sets, and you're using a top set back off method here again. 1 top heavy set of 6 to 10 reps, followed by 2 back off sets of 6 to 10 reps. And while you're on this bench, you can superset with lying bicep curls for the biceps, 3 sets of 6 to 10, and you're basically just lying flat on your back on the horizontal bench for these. So day 4 is basically our arm prioritization day. Then we have Bulgarian split squats for the quads, 3 sets of 8 to 12. After that, chest supported rows for the back, 4 sets of 8 to 12. And finally, leg extensions for the quads, 4 sets of 12 to 20. Notice that I actually deliberately split up your split squats from your leg extensions here to give your quads a little bit of a rest so that you can perform a bit better on your leg extensions. Next, we have day 5. We start off with machine overhead press. 3 sets of 6 to 10. These are mainly for your front delts, but they also train a bit of your upper pecs and triceps. Leg presses, 3 sets of 8 to 12 for the quads. And while you're on the leg press machine, you can superset with calf raises for the calves. And we're using a mile rep scheme again here. 1 main set of 10 to 15 reps, followed by 7 mini sets of 3 to 5 reps. After that, cable upright rows, again for the side delts, 4 sets of 12 to 20. And barbell curls for the biceps to wrap it up, 3 sets of 8 to 12. Notice that when I do have 2 main pressing movements coming back to back, I'll place the easier one afterwards, so machine overhead press. So you'll see that I try to avoid having 2 main priority movements, which train similar muscle groups back to back. So we didn't say put military press in here. Last day, day 6, we start off with good mornings for the glutes and hamstrings, 3 sets of 6 to 10. And this is your main hip hinge movement for the program. Then we have the Dr. Swole pull down for the back, 4 sets of 8 to 12. And these are basically a seated single arm pull down, except you're actually sitting on the ground. Angle your body about 45 degrees from the cable. And when you sit on the ground, you have more control over your line of pull. I like getting your body into a bit of that adduction stretch at the top of the movement. It's a very versatile movement I like for more advanced athletes. Then we have incline machine bench press for the chest, 4 sets of 8 to 12. Easy bar skull crushers for the triceps, 3 sets of 8 to 12. And finally, machine lateral raises for the side delts, 4 sets of 12 to 20. Okay, I want to go through each of the muscle groups and look at the frequencies of training here so you can see what I'm counting for each muscle group. With quads, we're using a 4 times per week frequency. For glutes and hamstrings, also a 4 times per week frequency. For chest, we're training with a 4 times per week frequency. Back gets trained also with 4 times per week frequency. Biceps 4 times per week, but the frequency is a little bit higher because biceps do get trained with pulling movements on back movements. Then let's see triceps here 3 times per week and calves 3 times per week. So notice here that the frequencies are pretty similar across the board because I am aiming for equal prioritization. But you have a lot of control in changing the frequencies for specific muscle groups to emphasize certain ones. Okay, let's talk about the weekly layout for this 6-day full body split. Obviously, programming full body is really simple. You just run the days across the week and then you place a rest day at the end. Now, a couple things I wanted to address here. This program was put together with some deliberation. As you saw me explain earlier, there was some strategy in where I placed exercises across the week. For example, I set things up so I did not have a quad type movement the day before my front squats, and I didn't have a glute and hamstring movement the day before good mornings, which were the main priority movements for quads and glutes and hamstrings. So the day order does matter somewhat if you are trying to be really nuanced in terms of optimizing performance across all lifts. However, you will find that when you get used to training high frequency full body, and if you're good at auto-regulating, these rules can be broken. So it is very doable to even train the same muscle groups back to back if you know what you're doing. Now, there is some thought as well in where you place the rest day. In general, you want to use your rest days wisely. And here you can either place your rest day after your toughest day or before your main priority day. You'll see in this program that I start each day with a different muscle group as the main movement. This means I give a rotating priority to our different muscle groups each day. Here I pegged day 6 as our hardest day because we put good mornings there. And in general, a heavy hip hinge is going to be your toughest movement in the program. And then I put meadow rows on day 1, which would be your priority day coming after your rest day. So you could say that we're giving a very slight priority to the back here. These differences are very small, but you get what I'm trying to do. If you have a priority movement, put it on the day after your rest day. Okay, now let's talk about the pros and cons of this 6-day full body hypertrophy program. Starting with the pros, this program has maximum customizability, particularly in this high frequency full body setup. When you have 6 days full body, you have a lot of control over where you place emphasis for different muscle groups. As you saw, I placed a rotating emphasis on different muscle groups here, placing a movement from different exercise categories first on each day. In general, the first movement of the day gets a little bit of priority since you're able to hit it fresh and you're going to perform a little better on it. But note that you could change the emphasis of your different muscle groups very simply by shuffling around the exercise order. And you also saw that I controlled frequency for different muscle groups to give different priorities. If you want to prioritize a certain muscle group, say arms, you could place arm exercises on every single day. And that way you could increase the frequency as well as the volume. So keep in mind that full body splits don't necessarily mean that you're training every single muscle group on every single day. There is a lot of customizability that is possible with a split like this. The next point here is that a 6-day full body split is very flexible. As we talked about earlier in the weekly setup, there is some very fine nuance to where you want to place the rest day if you are being really picky, but ultimately you can shuffle that rest day around very easily. easily. And in particular, I set this up in a way to give you a chance to really put some priority on your front squat and good morning. But this isn't necessary, particularly if you're more advanced. You may not be worried so much about numbers, and you could very easily make some modifications to the program in substituting different exercises so you aren't worried about days coming back to back in a certain order. Next, this program has excellent fatigue distribution. This is one thing I really like about full body splits. Since you're spreading out your tough movements across the days, you have very even stress across the week. And this effect is amplified by having more days. For example, if you had a 4-day full body split, you'd still have very good fatigue distribution within each workout. But when you have more days, you actually spread out the stress even more. This can be a powerful advantage for more advanced athletes who deal with fatigue. For example, for myself, after a tough leg day, I'll actually come home and want to go back to sleep. And being able to spread out my leg training can help a lot. So I'm not feeling so crushed on any single given day, and I'm better able to perform across all the movements on that day. Last advantage here is that with a high frequency full body split, you're able to accommodate high volumes. This is an indirect benefit of training with high frequencies, is that you're able to jack up the volumes for a certain muscle group if necessary. There's nothing stopping you from placing arm training on every single workout and even increasing the number of sets. The problem with low frequency splits like bro splits is that they have difficulty accommodating a lot of volume. For instance, if you wanted to do 20 sets of biceps and you place those all on one arm day, your biceps would be so fatigued by the end of the workout that you wouldn't be curling very much. So much for curls for the girls. But anyways, when you spread out that bicep volume over more days, you're going to be more fresh for each day since you've had that night to recover, and you'll end up being able to lift more weight for more reps for all of those exercises in aggregate. Okay, now let's talk about the cons of this 6-day full body hypertrophy program. First of all, when you're training 6-day full body, it can be difficult to program, particularly when you have certain priority movements. It's very easy to just plug in exercises for every single muscle group across the week. But for example, if you're trying to hit numbers on your front squat or good morning, or other squats or deadlifts for that matter, it could be a little bit tricky because you want to set things up so you perform well on a certain day. Of course, this is very doable with some expertise and careful planning. I will say, however, that full body splits with high frequency programming does get easier to set up when you're not really aiming for strength goals. So if your goal is pure hypertrophy and you're not so worried about performance on certain exercises, then it actually gets easier because you can just slot in muscle groups as you please. Next, this is related to the last point. It does require quite a bit of auto-regulation to train high frequency full body. As you saw here, all of our muscle groups are getting trained 3 to 4 times per week. So you do have to be careful in titrating the amount of volume and intensity you use for each workout so that you don't have a lot of overlapping soreness. If you find that you're still really sore going to the next workout, the next week when you come around, you'll want to modify your training intensity a little bit. So the easiest way is to just scale back a little bit from going all the way to failure, for example. And if that doesn't work, you might want to try dropping a set or two. Next, with full body splits, some people complain of not getting as much of a pump. And this is just because you don't have as many sets for a single muscle group in any one given workout. However, this is not so much of a problem for a more advanced athlete. When you have really good technique and mind-muscle connection, you can actually get a really good pump even just from a couple of sets. Finally, some people find training high-frequency full body, particularly something like this, 6 days per week, to be more mentally challenging since you feel like you don't have a break from training certain muscle groups. I will put an asterisk here because the flip side is also true. Some people actually find it easier when you split up your muscle groups across the week. For example, for me, training high frequency full body is actually a little bit less stressful because of that fatigue distribution piece, where I don't have to worry about having a really tough leg day. But some people find it more motivating to go into the gym and just have a few muscle groups that they need to train. So if some other split setup helps you stay sustainable, then remember sustainability and consistency are king, so you want to prioritize that. This program, as usual, will be available in my Facebook group, so if you haven't joined the group already, find the link in the description below. Join the group and you can download the Excel file for free. If you are an advanced bodybuilder and you're really trying to squeeze out those last few gains, check out my book, Advanced Hypertrophy Periodization, where I go through the ins and outs of periodization for hypertrophy, which is basically how to set up training and nutrition variables across a long time scale, like for example across a year, in order to optimize results. A lot of these are very advanced and cutting edge concepts that I'm really excited to share with you. If you want to see another high frequency program, check out this video where I share a 6-day upper lower split. Upper lower also works really well for 6 days per week, and it can be a little bit simpler to program. Make sure you subscribe to the channel to build up those knowledge gains to get swole, and we'll see you next time.